We acknowledge that together we reside, learn, and create on the land of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, Mississauga, Wendake, Neonwencio, and Neutral People.
We seek re-Indigenization. We stand with the Indigenous community and welcome Indigenous voices on this platform. We are grateful to be working and learning on and about this land, and we honor these communities as the traditional stewards of these lands.
Hi!
Hi!
Oh my gosh! Okay,
I'm so happy to be here with you.
I'm so excited. This has been, what, a week in the making?
Yeah, seriously, right?
It
Like,
actually yeah, wasn't it last
and
week
a
we
half?
talked to you about?
I think it was a week and a half ago.
It feels longer because we've been so, or I think we've both been so, like, mentally involved with it.
Yes, I know. It's kind of when you first mentioned the idea, like I think both of us were like ideas pouring out and we
Yeah.
just wanted to get to work on this and
And
it's
it's still happening. Like, I mean, we're only on our first episode, but I, like, every day constantly go back to the, like, documents and, like, oh, this person, this topic.
yes, I know. I'm so That's so exciting.
That's fantastic. Okay.
So why don't we introduce ourselves, I
Who
guess?
are we?
Oh
We are,
no.
you say it, we are.
The Dreaming Divas.
That was beautiful. Um, yes, we are the Dreaming Divas. Okay, I need your story. I need who you are.
Okay.
Because I know a little bit, but I don't know a lot.
Yes, I know. So first off, I mean, for those who don't know me, my name's Cassandra Amorim, but you can call me Cass. I like to be called Cass. And my pronouns are she, her. And I have been in love with music since I can remember, though vocal music was later in my life. So I think around the time I was 4 or 5, probably 5 years old, my parents put me in violin because my mom's best friend was a music teacher and a violinist. So my dad wanted me to do piano, and my mom's like, no, let's put her in violin. Let's put her in violin. So I've been doing violin since I was 5 years old. I don't play all the time now, but I do teach. So it's still like a huge part of my life. And truly, it's it's molded me into the musician I am today. If I did not play violin or learn violin when I was younger, um, I wouldn't be the musician I am today. So um, yeah, so I guess around 5 years old, I started violin and I did the Suzuki method. For those of you who don't know, that's super based on ear training as well. It's not so theoretical and, doing all the theory and history. I did not do that until I decided to go to university for music and I was like, "Oh, I got a lot of catching up to do."
Oh, bless your
Seriously.
heart.
I did not. I remember being in grade 12 and I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to do this. I need to know some rudiments." I had not, I knew because I've been in orchestra and I played, but like, I couldn't, like, off the top of my head read a bass clef at all. Like, that was
I still can't.
stressful for me. I know. I'm like, "Ugh." I have to all cows eat grass. That's how I remember.
I always think of it as two below what it actually is on the treble staff.
That's smart. I have to think about, like, make acronyms for the spaces and lines. But anyways, so we get okay, let's just tell it right here. We both go off on tangents, and I may sometimes forget where I am in the story or the idea. But okay.
It's
So,
okay. We'll find our way back,
yes.
and if we don't, you'll get some extra info. It's fine.
Yes. There will never be a time where we're not talking. Let's just say that.
Oh, we love to talk.
Oh my gosh.
Wasn't it? When was it? Like earlier this week, I was like, oh, I'll have like a nice like hour long FaceTime with you, and we look at the time, 3 hours.
3 hours
3 hours have gone by.
goes by so fast.
Yeah.
Okay, so my musical journey. So I guess in elementary school, I was playing the violin, of course, but I remember my mom and her best friend, the one who was a violinist. She was my music teacher, but they put on the musical Annie Jr. Okay, and I was like in grade 1, and I was just like, I'm Annie, like so. I wasn't. I was grade 1. But I would go to all the rehearsals. I would bring my friends and grade 1 friends and we would watch the rehearsals. And then I'd go out onto the field at recess and like put on a production of Annie and like tell people who they were. It was like director slash Annie because I wanted to be Annie so badly. Um, so I think that was kind of like my first love of vocal music, to be honest, because I would just be like belting Annie songs out in the log garden, we'd call it at school. I don't know what it was called, the log garden, but
Maybe there were logs.
it. Oh yeah, yeah, there were logs. But anyways, it was truly. I remember seeing that and going to the show, and I was crying because I was so moved by the music. I was like grade 1, so I since then I always loved vocal music, but I was primarily a violinist. I did some choir, Kadai choir when I was younger. In middle school, my middle school put on Into the Woods Junior, and I played Jack's mother. And I just remember having to pull this guy's ear on stage and like reprimand him for getting some magic beans or whatever. So
The cow. Milky
I
Way.
know I'm going in depth here. I hope you don't mind.
Oh my god, I love hearing about your life.
It's I got some weird stories. I'm an oddball, so that's okay.
I think we both are, and that's why this works. Oh.
Yes. So then high school, I went to a high school that was primarily for French immersion, so I didn't go to like a string school, which would have been a school like down the street from my high school. Um, so I didn't go there, but a lot of my string playing friends went there. And KCI was a school I went to, was just band or voice. And I was not learning another instrument. I was not going to be in band. So I just decided to be in the vocal program. So my music class was all voice students, and I was in choirs there. Um, and that's really, I think, where I was like, I really like this. I was introduced to some solo voice, not super classical yet, some musical theater, some crossover, like um, I remember singing the song in a recital, Someone to Watch Over Me, super jazzy. I
Yeah.
loved that
It's
piece.
in Crazy for You, right?
Yes, yeah. So I really started loving to sing, but through this time I was in orchestra, so I played side by side with the Kishinewaterloo Orchestra Symphony, KWS, and I was a part of the youth orchestra. So I was actually I just graduated from Laurier for my undergrad, but as a high school student, I was in Laurier every single weekend for my youth orchestra rehearsals. So I knew most of the people who were percussionists and wind and brass. They were in university, and a lot of the string students were younger. so so I was learning with a lot of university students throughout my high school life, and all the time, at least once a year, we'd play some type of opera overture, and that's where truly my love for opera started. Because I played Barbara Seville, Marriage of Figaro, I played Magic Flute. What
Carmen?
else? Like Carmen. Oh yeah, I did a Carmen concert. What else did I do? Um, I think Romeo and Juliet, something like a lot of opera overtures. but we never really did side by side with any singers. So I remember being in orchestra and like sometimes humming like the opera parts. And they were like, "What are you doing? Wait, you sing?" It's like, "Why are you here? You should be a singer." And I remember hearing that. I was like, maybe I should." So my grade 12 year, I went to my parents and said, "I'm I'm not gonna go to a school for violin." They're like, "What?" "I'm gonna go to school for voice." And I'm like, "Whoa, hold up. You don't have any voice lessons." So my grade 12 year, I'm I found Beth as a teacher. I think the end of August, early September, I had a lesson with her for the first time, and I was preparing for auditions January.
Oh, okay.
It was crazy. It was crazy, and oh my gosh, I couldn't have done it without Beth's support and help. That was so helpful. I had met her through a friend that I knew from high school and a musical theater camp. So my grade 12 year, I said, I stopped violin, and I think I cried. I was really stressed about it because I didn't know if this was the right decision, and it was really hard to tell my violin teacher as well. I remember bawling. It was a very difficult decision for me, but I'm glad I did. I'm glad I took the risk to do that. And yeah, that's kind of just a little bit. There's lots of more in between, I'm sure. I'll tell you more funny stories later.
Absolutely. Wow, that's so cool. And where are you now?
Oh, yeah. So
Just
now I just finished my undergrad at Wilfrid Laurier University, voice performance. So now I'm going to University of Toronto for a Masters of Opera. And I am excited. Tiny bit nervous, but excited. So excited, so grateful.
closer to
Yeah.
me.
hmm
Yeah.
Closer to you! Yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah,
So
we
tell me.
haven't met.
Oh, that's important.
I know. We have not
Never met
we
in person.
in person. We met virtually
Yes. So what?
June the 7th. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
June 7th, 2 days after my birthday.
Gemini's. Um, we met June 7th, 2021,
Yes.
and
And
it's
it's
Friday, July 16th, 2021.
LOL, we're
We've
funny.
known each other for a month and a half. And
Okay,
we
but I knew of you.
Okay, yes. So, okay. Because
I
when
knew of you.
we first got our chance to talk in the program, we met, okay, let's talk about the program. We met in a summer opera program that
Yeah.
we will probably get into later on. But so I didn't recall that I knew who you were,
I
but you
remember
knew who I was.
I knew who you were. And I remember we were finally something like a class ended or something and we were in a Zoom thing and I was like, "I know you." And you were like,
And I was
"Woo!"
so nervous. I was like, what? Why does this person know me?
You're Beth's student.
And I was like, you know Beth?
And
And
I
then
said,
you
"Oh,
said,
Beth."
I study with Beth.
Yeah, seriously. Beth has been
Our
like,
mom.
yeah, truly,
Yeah.
truly. Like since she was like the first influence in my like truly my classical voice life. She has always been like my mentor. So I always remember like every time I would just chat and catch up with her, she would be like, "Oh yeah, my student Simmie sings this and Simmie's great in that." And I was like, I kept hearing Simmie, Simmie, Simmie. I'm like, I know who you are. So it was funny.
Because you had, and we don't need to like get into this, but you were studying with Beth, but not as part of an institution, unlike
Correct.
myself. So being in an institution, I think there's a little less room for like side conversations and stuff. Like it's very
Yeah.
scheduled and stuff. So, but I recall her mentioning after you talked to me about it, I recall her mentioning that she had another student in this program.
Yes.
but we hadn't like gotten into it or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then you said, "I know you," and I said, "Oh, what?"
Oh, that must have been creepy.
It wasn't creepy the way you said it, but in the moment I was like, wait, why does this person know who I am? Is it for good or bad reasons? But then once I found out that you were also Beth's student, and like, if you're a Beth student, you love Beth. There's just, she's so amazing. And we're gonna amazingly have her on this show, and I'm so excited for it. But we were like, oh my gosh, you love Beth, I love Beth, and that was our bonding. Like that was formed our connection.
Exactly.
And I love you.
So tell us about you now.
Oh, me. I've always been like a musical kid. I think I started voice lessons when I was like 8 years old because my parents were like, you got to do something like throughout the week, because like my family's like and I know there are a lot of other people who are very fortunate to be able to send their kids to these types of things, and I absolutely acknowledge how lucky I am for that. But they always said you have to do something. You have to do some sort of after school program. We don't care what it is, but you got to do something. And I did weird things. I did fencing. I did synchronized swimming. I did. So I think I was 8 years old. I started voice lessons at just like the local music school. And from there, I didn't really stop, to be honest. I think there was like a period of time I didn't, but when I was in high school, I had this amazing, amazing teacher from this music school. I jumped teachers a couple times. Lindsay. I'll avoid last name just in case like she doesn't want to be talked about. And she was my first introduction to classical music because we were doing the RCM.
Yes.
And so that was my first introduction. But at this time, I was like, I want to be in musical theater. Like, there was just nothing else existed in my world besides musical theater. And so we would do musical theater stuff, and we would do RCM stuff. There was a period of time she taught me piano lessons that did not last. And from there, really good thing that I didn't mention names because she did something she technically wasn't supposed to under contract. She brought me to my next teacher because she stopped teaching to study other things. And so she brought me to Shannon Coates. Shannon Coates, we forever. We're gonna hope to have her on the show one day. They're just amazing. Oh my gosh, stellar teacher, stellar pedagogue.
Yes.
And from Shannon, I started to find a little more classical voice. That was through the second half of high school. Okay. And then while I was figuring out post-secondary stuff, because that's just a thing, like my family has always said, we don't care what you do, you just have to do a degree in something. Understandably, because the work world is hard without, like I've always said, I swear at some point in my lifetime you'll need a master's degree to work at McDonald's. I swear. Anyways, so I was figuring out what I was going to do, and it was going to be music. There's nothing else in my world. But I was talking to people about what programs I should do, stuff like that. And I kind of came to the conclusion that I want to do musical theater, but I'm going to study classical music to get my good foundation, a good technique, and then from there, we'll go off and do musical theater. And that, I did that. But then, just as the pandemic had started, I had an identity crisis. I should also say that Shannon brought me to Beth. Shannon was the one that recommended Beth. Okay. And I'm so glad they did. So, at the very beginning of the pandemic, like March 2020, I have my little identity crisis because I realized that I want to be an opera singer and not musical theater. Not that I'm gonna stop musical theater. I think that'll always be a part of me. Yeah. But it's not the main focus anymore. And so that was hard to say goodbye because that really brought me to who I was, that, you know,
Yeah.
molded a lot of who I am.
Yeah.
Um, but I also feel such a big connection to classical music now, and I'm so grateful that I had my little freak out.
Yeah.
Um, but I remember uh, I had a virtual lesson with Beth after deciding this, and I told her, Beth, I decided I want to be an opera singer, and she was like, good, because I think she secretly wanted it the whole time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then she talked to me. Then she was started talking to me about master's programs, and I was like, wait, I have to do one of those. And
And
so
you were like,
I thought I was done school after the fourth year. I didn't want to do any more school. But here we are. I think it's pretty normal to do it, and there's not a lot of people that get that far without it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we'll see what happens in the future. And I'm, you know, my life is subject to change, and I'm not gonna, you know, reprimand my current self from the future and be like, oh, you made a bad decision.
Yeah.
So that's where I am. Yeah, I we love music. I just love music.
I love it because when we have our conversations, we talk about how, we can talk forever about like specific operas or singers or the topic of, and we just don't stop.
We don't stop, and I think it's also that we both love to analyze things.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
like just like as an example, when we were talking about Sondra Radvanovsky's Tosca, at the
Yeah.
very end, when she, you know, falls off the edge, and we were like, her soul just left her body before she fell. Like, she died before she fell.
Like, I wish we could show that right now. Like,
I know, but I don't want to get in trouble, right? Because it's not like my video or
I
anything
know.
like that. But holy cow, man.
Oh, y'all have to watch it.
So how
I
did we become friends? Oh, did you have something?
Let's talk about how we became friends.
Let's talk about it. We touched on
About
it.
the program, just a little bit, because that was a fun program.
It was
So
I
glad.
would recommend this program probably forever.
Yeah.
And it was the first time they did it like this during the pandemic,
Yes.
right? So we met. So
Steven. We love.
we adore Steven. We met at the Longreach Opera Workshop.
Yes.
But it was they
Virtual.
usually do a production.
They usually, yeah, correct, yeah.
Yeah.
They usually do production, but I guess it was just language the first time they've ever done a language intensive.
Yeah.
Um,
French and German.
French and German. So we got to meet a lot of people, which was fantastic. Work with a lot of different people. We were really lucky. We got to work with each coach that was there. Everybody who basically decided to come to the program, we got to work with one on one. So, like, so lucky that I found was pretty amazing.
But I actually did have a question about the program. What was your biggest takeaway?
Hold up.
I can edit this part. You take your time.
I think well, there wasn't one big thing. There were
There were a lot of
small tidbits. Working with Steven was super powerful for me. So I brought in an aria that had a lot of baggage, and the way I learned it, the way I performed it, and how I was rehearsing it. Due to COVID, I played the role of Madame Lidouane in Dialogue des Carmélites by Poulenc, and so Laurier did it. We did it in person with like 4 people tops on stage at a time with masks, with singing with masks. So it's hot on stage to begin with without a mask, okay? Like the lights get to me and I'm like, I need space to sing, and I have this mask, the singer's mask, though it had 3 plus layers of material. I was like, just give me one piece of material. It was made for us, right? To be
Yeah.
safe,
I
but
think I have mine, like, hang on, keep talking.
I think I threw mine out, not gonna lie. I was so
Maybe I
done with
don't
it.
need it
So
again, though.
I went I went on stage, and not only it had been so long since I had performed live or on a stage, so I was nervous. Oh, is that your singer's mask?
Yeah.
I want to see yours. Oh,
You look like a duck, and I think it's funny.
yeah. Yeah. The the bill there.
It's really this one. A friend of my in my studio made it for me.
Wow.
Like
That's
yeah,
amazing.
she was just taking like payment and doing it. It was so good, and it's perfect.
Wow. That's amazing, but I hated the mask. So I would go and you do rehearsals of this aria and sing this aria with this mask on, and I don't know, I felt like I couldn't hear, like I it was just blasting back on my ears. So my ears couldn't hear the piano. We didn't have an orchestra, right? Piano. There was plexiglass everywhere. And right in front of Emily Hamper, who I love so much. Emily Hamper is an amazing musician, human. Anyway, so she was our musical director, but I couldn't see her because there was this huge plexiglass, and like sometimes there were shadows, and she was so helpful trying to make this all work out. But I think I really learned some bad habits wearing this mask and singing. So long tangent for going back to the main point is I had so much baggage with this aria. I was not sending the sound because it was just getting trapped here. I felt tension in a lot of places. Um, and I just wanted to leave this aria for a long time and just leave it. But I brought it to this program because I was like, maybe something can help me with this. And I swear, I went into coaching with Steven, and he said a few things. He was talking about, not collapsing at all here.
Did he
And
Farinelli?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so. I don't know. I was like half like listening, but sometimes when you're nervous and you're meeting someone, so I was like, I can't remember everything. I should have recorded it, but the sound that came out, I was like, that's it. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. And Steven was like, and I was like, okay, yes, like, can you help me forever? So there were a lot of that was so long, but I really loved working with Steven. I had some weird French darkening, and I think I would say I would darken a lot of the French too much.
I do that too.
Oh gosh, and it was just not helping the resonance in my voice. So, of course, Steven also did tiny little things, like so slow, we worked through it, but a huge change in the sound. So, that was good. What about you?
He, Stephen Lee.
Yeah, yeah,
He is, and when I say this, I mean it quite literally. I think the smartest person I've ever met.
yeah.
He knows so much. It's crazy to me. Wow.
Even if you're watching this, come on our podcast.
Even be on our show.
And Flash be our friend.
Well, yeah. My biggest takeaway. Well, like you said, there were a lot of little things. Like it's right here. This little notebook is like my
Ha.
my Torah or my Bible. Like it's
Yeah.
But I think the thing that rings in my ear constantly was there was one of Donna Brown's master classes in the program.
Yeah.
She said the words it was give them an offer they can't refuse.
Hmm.
And that is now how I am going to lead into everything. And
Yeah.
like any audition, anything like that. I think it's in my power. to
Yeah.
do that, right? It's in my power to prepare that way. It's in my power to perform that way,
Yeah.
nerves and whatever aside.
Yeah.
And it like rings in. I think about it like once a day at least. It's
Yeah.
just phrasing it that way, so simple.
Yeah. So simple.
I love it. Anyways, yeah.
So
Um,
so
how how did this podcast happen?
so I think we were being okay, so I would also like to say so inspired by Sondra and Keri.
Screaming Divas. It
Screaming Diva.
100% is inspired by the Screaming
I
Divas.
think we were obsessing over their podcast.
Yes, I think.
You tell me. And then you texted me. I remember
Yeah,
that. I
yeah,
remember getting that text and being like, I just knew. Yeah.
yeah. I what I admire about their podcast, and I don't think they intend to do this, but it just happens,
Yeah.
is it is so educational for people like us. Like, we
Yeah.
are not even young artists yet. Like, we are tiny in this world, but we're young singers,
Yeah.
and it provides almost like a warning in a way, talking about all the like shitty things that happen,
Yeah.
all the amazing things too.
Yeah.
But it really puts into perspective, okay, so this is what I'm signing up for. Let's prepare ourselves for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And along with it, it's also very entertaining.
Yeah. So entertaining.
So funny. They are hilarious.
And
Um, sorry,
I'll
you.
just I'll just say a little bit about it. Um, when you messaged me, I was like, I think we were talking about my ideas started spinning, and I knew personally when I started, delving into the world of opera, it's very hard to start. Like, okay, I'm gonna watch an opera. Okay, what's happening? What just happened vocally? Like I could watch master classes online, Joyce, Lisette,
Renee.
Renee.
Yeah,
Um, but there wasn't a lot of videos I could watch about the process. Learning certain things, learning about old singers, like singers from the past. Um, Learning about things that are behind the curtain, right? That we don't learn in an undergrad. There are so many things that the undergrad program didn't have time to teach us, right? Or to tell us about. Um,
they don't
so
want they don't want us to see the bad parts of it. And
yeah,
here's the thing, as much as I am part of institutional learning, I don't agree with it because they're really just looking for a cash grab. Let's be honest. They're not going to tell you the bad things about it because they want you to continue coming to school.
yeah, I know I there's a lot of things that universities have done that I'm not super that was a difficult. I had a difficult journey going through my undergrad, um,
You did.
finding a teacher that I could really really learn from, and I learned a lot along the way, and I'm grateful for every person I had come across, but it had taken me 3 years to really find a teacher who really inspired me and changed the way I think about singing and technically helped me improve. Like Marianne Bindig was my teacher 2 years. I love that woman so much. She truly took my voice to the next level. So I'm so grateful for her. But, there were some things that we couldn't do together because of program demands or because, I had opera and then I was almost taking choir and like I had no time to learn about, certain techniques that old singers use that we don't use much now we're talking about really going deep into things and analyzing. That's just happens, you have the classic 4 years to do this all. I took an extra year. I don't know if I told you this, but in my second year I got quite ill. I had some mental health things, but I also had physical problems. I had to get my tonsils and my adenoids removed. Um, and I couldn't really sing through that. So I went part-time, and then I ended up dropping everything and petitioning for that year to be non-accountable on my record. Um, so I'm so glad I took that year after. Like, I stopped. I decided to just stop. My friends kept on going, they kept on learning and went on the same 4-year path. But I decided to stop because it was the best thing for me. And that's another thing I don't always agree with is the classic you have to be here for 4 years and do that in 4 years, or else somehow you're not doing it right. Or, everybody's journey is different, and taking that break at the time was so painful, and I was so upset with myself, and I felt so guilty, I felt so bad, but it was the best thing for me, truly. And that's what I think that this podcast can really help people know, that there's so many different paths. There's not just one path to being an opera singer or to being in the opera world. You know what I mean?
It's
And
so true. Like, if you look at all of the big names in opera right now, they all had a completely different journey.
completely. And that's what we want to dive into and see and talk to people who have had many different journeys and analyze how they did it. And maybe you can pick bits and pieces from people's journeys, but in the end it's your own. But we all want to learn. I think that is the biggest thing about this. This is something I desire so much, is to grow as a person, to grow as a human, and as a musician, a singer. There's so many things more that I want to learn and that we need to learn, I think. So this podcast is I think a good space for us to do that.
I agree. Yeah, like kind of going like we kind of had like goals in terms of what we actually want to provide here for ourselves and for viewers, right?
Yeah,
Besides entertainment, obviously we want to be entertaining too.
obviously.
Um, but like I agree with you. Like I get very excited about learning. Like I took a year off before auditioning for masters because I wanted to know who I was not as a student.
Yeah.
And all I've learned is that I want to be a student.
Yeah.
I'm taking certifications and extra courses and stuff like that like throughout this next year, and I'm not a student, but I'm just doing that of my own accord, so
Yeah.
that hasn't ended. But so also too, we wanted to create a podcast, a forum of basically doing what the Screaming Divas are doing, kind of unintentionally, but
Yeah.
from the perspective of young singers.
Yes.
Because I feel like the questions we have will be what a lot of other people our age have as well.
Yeah.
And it is quite a niche market. I don't really care who
Yeah.
watches, though.
Yeah.
Um,
Just that whoever does maybe get some tidbits of things that they didn't know before, or
mhm.
that they can like think about in their own mind.
Yeah, and like I'm excited for like the people that we have, queued up for the next few episodes. I
Yes.
know these people personally, or most of them at least,
Yeah.
but I haven't really gotten this opportunity to ask them these questions, right? And so now not only am I going to learn from their experiences, but, maybe three other people will too,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting. And I also think both of us want to create a space for mistakes to be made,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that to be okay. And also to learn not just about opera too, like let's talk about the real issues in the world as well in relation to opera,
Yeah.
perhaps, and
Yeah.
perhaps not. Like racism, homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, ableism, all that stuff, I
Yeah.
think is an important thing to give people voices for.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
you know we're I'm excited for who we have coming to
Yeah.
to
And as students, and as singers who will be hopefully traveling the world and sharing our voice, we have to be in tune with these things and be connected to everyone in the world. And I think it's so important that no matter who you are, what you're doing, we take the time to just learn together and be together and enjoy ourselves together, but truly, let's evolve and take the time yourself to learn because learning's beautiful. It is. It truly is.
It gets me so excited. Like when
I
I learn
know.
something new,
I was
like,
like, woo!
oh my gosh, like, okay, I'm gonna tell them about yesterday. So
Yeah.
we asked our teacher, since we have the same teacher, if we could audit each other's lessons, right?
Yes.
And so yesterday we did. We got to for the first time, and we had back-to-back lessons, so we were just on for the whole time. And like, I learned so much in my lesson, but I also learned so much from yours.
Yes.
Also learned more about your voice because your voice is cool. Like your voice is massive and fantastic, and I'm so excited. But it's just so interesting hearing it from because we are both sopranos but different voices.
Different.
Different.
Totally different.
And it's so cool to learn about other.
Yeah. It's we were talking and a lot of the things that are my weaknesses are your strengths
And
and so that's so cool to see that in action also and learn through that because I have so much more learning to do. Let's talk about coloratura. I'm crying. Me? Days.
okay,
Me?
but you
I'm working on it. I will get it.
you are. And seriously, like the way you were talking about it to me before I actually got to hear it yesterday sounded worse than what you actually did.
Thank you.
You like impressed me, seriously though.
Oh
I
God.
wasn't expecting it, and then you came out of there, and I was like, oh,
I've I've got lots to learn, but I'm excited to learn it. And although sometimes it makes me want to cry, I know that some things that make me want to cry are there to teach me.
absolutely. And I think it's really important to know where we sit
Yeah.
in, and I don't, love comparing myself, but I think it's important to know where you sit with the rest of the people around you. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And, like I know I'm not the best, and let's also talk about the fact that we're still young. But I know I am far from the best, but I know for sure that I am not the worst.
Yeah.
Right?
But
I
that
know where my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are to work on, and I know what things, based on the anatomy, I'll probably never be able to do.
yeah,
Probably. But again, still young, voice still grows.
voice still grows and there's things that when we were talking when you just said there's some things that you may not ever do due to anatomy, which is true. But we can also delve into those things, and although we won't do it professionally, it's so good to even just try it and like
Absolutely.
explore and a lot of times fall flat in our faces, but you learn so much through that.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. I wanted to say something else. But I can't remember. Classic
In my
me.
life. But I think, yeah, like this is not the field to play ignorant.
No.
Like know who you are, I think. And I've heard that from professionals as well. Know where you sit and don't be,
Yeah.
oblivious to it.
Yeah.
But I agree, and I think what you were saying about diving into the things that you'll never be able to do. I'm obsessed with mezzo rep. I love it. Like
Yeah.
I will never play Carmen. I will likely never play Rosina, though some sopranos do, Diana Damaro. But who? But it's not gonna happen for me, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But that being said, Una Voce is my comfort song. It's
Wow.
I if I
Yeah.
have the time, I use it at the end of my warm up just to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Minus the low notes, a little less comfortable, but we're working on it.
Oh, wow. And you know me, I love low notes. I love
That's what I'm trying to gain from you.
I you know, I'm a young singer, so I'll always take advice and I'll always learn. But there's something that's just different. It hits different when a soprano can just go down. It adds depth and beauty to music. And I think there's a lot of the time that people leave out half of their voice because they're a soprano,
Mhm.
right? And so I'm just like, whoop, I'm gonna learn to sing really low and use some chest voice. I'm gonna be respectful to the composers and do it tastefully. I'm not gonna be like all the time. But I think it's really cool to dive into and
And I agree with you, and I think it's part of healthy technique. Like there was, I was reading about this. There was a period of time when they thought that chest voice was bad for you,
yeah,
and
yeah.
now the tables are kind of turning back around to
There are
believe
still people who still think chest voice is bad in
there
opera.
are. I respectfully disagree,
Yeah.
especially coming from musical theater.
True, the crossover
Um,
stuff. And
yeah, like there are a lot of people that I've come across who think that musical theater is going to wreck your voice. And I will say this, without proper training, it's possible for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But with good technique, musical theater is not. I've been singing musical theater for what,
Well,
almost 10 years,
yeah,
pretty consistently.
yeah,
And like my voice has only grown and gotten better, along with the technique.
yeah.
So,
And I think that this is something maybe if you want to hear more about things like this as well, analyzing old singers, that's something I brought to you, Simmie. I think it's so important for young singers to analyze singers and their lives and how they got there and but also analyze their performances and technique they use and things like that. If you listen to old singers, they're going to chest it up. It's true. So I just find that so interesting because so many people think that the era of the divas, there's no, like the last, or they called Renee the last diva.
yeah.
It's going to turn around. It's going to come back. I know it is.
Watch out. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Watch out.
Watch out, Renee.
So, so
Gosh.
no, we love you, Renee.
We love Renee. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that, if you're interested in learning about singers, let us know.
Beverly. Beverly.
Oh, yes, look at this quote.
Actually, that's something I'm so interested to talk to you about because I think I've just, like, when I say just, I mean like in the last couple weeks, transitioned my mind to like, oh, I don't want to sound like somebody.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, I was trying to find a singer, like a known singer that
Yeah.
I could kind of look to for myself.
Mm.
And I, in my looking, I can't find anybody that I sound similar enough to for my own satisfaction.
And
And I
that's
like it.
beautiful. You like it exactly.
Yeah.
That is a good thing. And it's always a good thing, I think to find role models and people you can model after, but it can be multiple. Like pick all the fantastic things you admire and love in a singer because I look back and I'm watching old videos of even tenors Geely and Tito Skipa, and there is just something that moves you in their technique, in what they choose technically in certain pieces. And not everybody does it the same way now, but I can go to a piece and listen because now we're so lucky that we can just type and look it up.
Yeah.
Okay, and watch like these amazing singers sing their most beautiful arias or art songs, and you can go and look at the piece you're working on, and whatever makes you feel the most, like whatever it is you want to feel, see what they did technically, see what they chose. Um, did they crescendo, or did they take a pause, or where are their breaths? Like, I love analyzing things like that, and that's what creates emotion. And yeah.
I have a question. Do you have any? I'm like, for me, it's YouTube. I'm so lucky to have YouTube as one of my resources, but I've probably been using it as the biggest resource in my music education, just to listen and hear what and see what people do.
Yeah.
Do you have any like videos, like performances or anything like that that you like constantly come back to?
Hmm. So this is not an old singer, but I'm obsessed with Lisette. We all know that.
We've been there.
I think we all know that. I I sung for Lisette twice last year in quarantine. Um, and honestly, watching and listening to all her master classes that she did, I learned so much. So there are things that I specifically go to Lisette's videos and I analyze them because there's something about Lisette is not only her voice is beautiful, but the musicianship that she has, I want, right? And so I will go to certain videos. Okay, I'm not gonna really sing Sempre Libera ever. Traviata. Oh.
Oh my god, I can only pray my voice will do that
I
one.
would try. I love it so much, but I love just listening to different things she does in recording. So I'll go to Lisette a lot. Another favorite singer I have is Montserrat Caballé.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things. I mean, there was a time where they really romanticized every type of rep, so I think that's not always good, because it's not allowed these days, you can't.
We want to be true to the composer.
Yeah, true to the composer. But a lot of things I will go to Montserrat Caballé and see what she does and see if she allows herself to go into chest voice. That's how I make decisions as well because there's a time and place for it, right? So those are not specific videos, but those are specific singers.
Oh yeah.
What about you?
Um.
Diana Damrau.
Well, actually, okay, no, no, no. So, I would say like my first introductions to opera were um when I was in high school. We had an opera singer come in and like do a little bit a presentation about opera and stuff like that.
Wow.
Um, and um, I think she showed two videos. Um, and these were like I just remember them because they took me aback.
Yeah.
And it was Diana Damrau's Queen of the Night, of
Yeah.
course, and then Cecilia Bartoli's Agitata.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
those always kind of like I don't analyze those ones as much, but I those are like my home base a little bit.
Yeah. That was like your opening
Yeah, yeah, it's just like a little sentimental
entrance.
thing, but I would say one that I could probably listen to on repeat for days is Pavarotti's
Oh,
Nessun Dorma.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And one of my vinyl albums, one of my Pavarotti albums has
Yeah.
it.
Oh my
And
gosh.
hearing it on record, oh man,
So good.
so good. So yeah, I think those are like, and there are several that videos that I come back to. I'm not gonna list them all, but um, yeah, like I analyze technique and I look at the character choices they make, and
Yeah.
finding that it's okay to disagree with them.
Yeah.
Like um, Queen of the Night, for example. You've seen me do an aria from it.
Yes.
Though I probably won't be singing the role anytime soon, and the choices that I've made are very different from
Yeah.
any one I've seen on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there's freedom in that.
Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah. Oh, I could just talk about this forever.
Oh my god,
Um,
me too. But anyways, this is good. This is gonna be my favorite. I think we should bring this question to every person.
Okay.
This is my favorite question.
The why.
What is your why?
You go first.
Me go. Okay. My why. First of all, I want to start with I think a person's why is constantly molding and changing.
Yes.
Do you hear my dog in the back?
I do.
Good. I think it's
Good.
I don't know. Music to my ears or something. I think it's something that's constantly changing because we as human beings are constantly changing. And I think our experiences, our thoughts, our opinions, they change over time.
Sorry, I just...
Are you laughing at my dog?
Yeah, it's loud. It's okay. Because we're talking about a secret, a serious conversation. And
I also, if that part goes in the video, I need to preface, Donald was not named after Donald Trump, okay? He was named
oh my gosh.
him and his sister Daisy. Anyways.
Oh.
I know. But it's...
Okay, sorry.
Okay, anyways. I think it's important to forgive when your why has changed.
Yeah.
My current why, and I've just arrived at this one in the last 2 months, and I love it so much, is because I have something to say.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be somebody who's just gonna do an opera for the sake of doing an opera. And yes, sometimes that's how it's gotta go to pay the bills. You just gotta do something you don't want to do. Whatever.
Yeah.
But I need to find a reason for it to be performed. And this is something I will talk to directors about. Why is this a story we need to bring to the world right now? You know what I mean? Like, the example I always talk about is Cozy Pentute.
Yeah.
Well, why? Why? And it's because it's still relevant. And I know there's a divide in that. Like, what are we really teaching with this, and blah blah blah. And I think when directed properly, or having a dialogue with the audience as to why this is being performed, it's powerful because we see one side of things, the way that it was intended to be performed, I suppose we could say, is to show that, in this case, we are generalizing women by these two girls in this opera to be non-faithful, whatever. And then when I watch it, I see these two men trying to play tricks on women and also not saying no, not taking no for an answer.
Yeah.
So let's kind of have a bit of a dialogue as to, in like that sense, right? So that is my current why.
Yeah. Love it.
What's your why?
My why. So in general, I work on my why in life a lot, whether that has to do with, my singing or other goals and things I work on. A why has to move you. Your why has to make you get out of bed when you don't want to. Your why has to make you go practice when you would rather go out. Like a why has to be so powerful and it has to move you deep inside. And I think a why is so closely aligned with your purpose in life. And I know there's a lot of people who are still figuring it out, and I want to say that that's okay. That is like, do what you want and take your time to figure it out, because life is going to move on and it will probably change, as we talked about. Your why will change as your purpose change, as you change. But I know my why is to be a vessel, to serve, and to make people feel something, so that I can use my voice to have somebody who's watching me feel something inside their soul. Feel them want to improve, or feel them want to learn about something that they may have not really cared about before. But through my voice, my goal is to make people feel something through music. That is my why. That's what gets me up in the morning. I also want people to know that they're worthy of of feeling unconditional love. And through this podcast, I hope that we can inspire other young singers to go big, go for your big dreams, your big goals, take risks, and just like believe in yourself. And I hope that through this, I make you feel that in your body, in your mind, in your soul, to just feel something, because I think that's so important too. It's kind of the catapult to doing something or to making a decision for your life. Is that it's that feeling. Um, so that's kind of my why.
I feel that from you because, and like, I think one of the great things about our friendship is that we both geek out about opera so intensely,
Yeah, yeah,
and I don't have a lot of other people I can do that with.
yeah,
And I think just because we're so similar in our energy level and
yeah.
many other things, I attribute it to being Geminis. Um,
Oh my gosh, yeah,
but it's true. Like I feel like I can go full like how excited I am about it with you because you give that back to me.
yeah.
And that's what makes it so fun. And that's why we stay on FaceTime for 3 hours.
So long, yeah. I know, I totally feel that. Oh, so exciting.
That's
So
beautiful.
good. I feel like it's like nice to have these conversations. I hope people who watch can also feel our energy and feel what we're feeling when we talk about
I
this.
hope so. Yeah, that's the because what was I saying just before we started? Oh, it's we're just having our Zoom calls.
Yeah, just our regular
We're just
convos.
we just happen to be recording
Yeah.
and then editing it and then putting it on the internet for people to see.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm having a great time.
Me too.
So this is good. Avoiding the news. We avoid the news, both of us.
Yeah. Um I would say we are consciously not spending time watching the news. We consciously make an effort to educate ourselves on what's happening,
Yes,
but we are not going to stick in a spot that's going to just make us feel hopeless.
absolutely. I will,
Because,
and I've been doing this since high school, probably, where I don't watch the news or listen to the news on the radio. And
yeah,
my dad, in particular, does not like that I do that
yeah,
because he feels that I'm keeping myself naive to, whatever.
yeah,
And I'm not. I know what the issues in the world are.
yeah,
I'm very conscious. I'm very involved in many of them.
yeah,
Um, just like okay, so yeah, I'm gay and non-binary. So
yeah,
there's that. I'm also Jewish.
yeah,
So these are like issues that are still relevant, right? And those are not the only issues, right? There's a massive list of,
huge.
things. And um, I know about all these issues. What I don't want is to know every time there's a hate crime,
Yeah,
every time there's, a natural disaster, all of this stuff, because then it puts me in this mental state of, okay, everything's horrible and I can't do anything. And like, I'm very open about the fact that I have anxiety, depression.
yeah,
And so I'm trying to avoid putting myself in, a little bit of a depression hole where I am unable to help solve these problems.
yeah, yeah. And I think it's good to know like news on the TV and news on the radio is not always just news. Um, I would rather read an article and educate myself than hear it, you know, it's very hard to hear something and I have to take ownership of my state, like I will take ownership of how that's going to make me feel, but that's my decision to turn, you know what I mean? But there are some times that you just listen to the news and it's just on and on and on and it's just too I want to be educated, and I want to hear what's happened. I want the truth, and then I want to learn from it and help. Like that's like my when I see something like that, I'm like, okay, I have to know this is happening. Um I have to be aware. I have to educate myself more than just watching the news, because you're not going to, you can't just watch the news to be educated. You have to really take responsibility and take action yourself to go learn more. And I think that process for me, after I find something out, is way more empowering and way more in a different state than just listening to this all the time. It sucks a lot. Personally, I really match energies a lot of the time, and I feel other people's things. And that's something that I know that I have to work on, creating a boundary, creating an energetic boundary for myself. That's me, right? I can allow things to come in or not to come in. But I know that it's going to be hard sometimes, right? So
Yeah.
it's so hard.
I'm so glad you brought up truth
Yeah.
because I think in a lot of ways if we're just talking about like the news on TV,
Yeah.
they do put a lot of effort into finding out what the actual truth is.
Yeah.
But an example I like to say to, you know, put in the extra research, put in the extra work, is back when George Floyd was murdered
Yeah.
and there were protests and the news was broadcasting that protesters were looting. And uh, then I actually saw a TikTok of someone who is a person of color, and so they were very involved in this discussion, which is fantastic. They completely changed my outlook, so then I could tell other people to change my outlook, because they said, instead of hearing what they're saying, that protesters were looting, change the perspective to looters were taking advantage of the protest. Which is true, right?
Uh,
And it
yeah.
blew my mind. It was fantastic, and I wish I could remember who it was. I would love to, put that out in the world. But it's true. We need to put in that extra work to find out, okay, there are two sides to every story. What side, we're going to hear both. What side
Yeah.
do we want to fight for?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or are we trying to fight for both of them?
Yeah.
Which I
Yeah.
think is true in many cases as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. And it's so hard because we live in a time where it's hard to find truth, I think. And I know that a lot of people get stuck in something that really isn't truth, and that comes with emotional manipulation. And that's what, a lot of this can happen a lot of the time. So by taking yourself out of that space where it's emotion, like trying to pinpoint emotions, like do your research and really try and take an action and learn yourself. And I think it's important to feel and see what people are feeling, but not in a way that it's going to stop you. You know what I mean? Like it's going to hurt you. It's very hard because so many people have gone through so many different things, and news is very intense. It's very intense. Yeah.
It's a lot of negative in the news. I don't know what the actual percentage division is, but I would say it's mostly negative stuff.
Yeah.
So
I know.
before we
Right?
start, before we start,
Before we start. um why do you have such a cool mug?
it's so cute, but it's left-handed, and I am not left-handed.
I am.
It's so cute, babe. Really?
Yeah, I'm left-handed.
Oh my god, I did not know that. Wow.
See, you know
Wait,
what?
oh, your violin is left-handed?
No, I just regular.
Oh,
Just but
are there
but
left-handed violins?
I think they're very, very rare. Like, I don't,
Okay.
I think you have to learn how to. So, My violin is all violinists have their violin on their left shoulder. They
Yeah.
bow with their right hand and they use fingers with their left.